So hi, One Leaving Noise podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
Well, my name's
Go.
Lucas, and I sing for a band called Holding Absence.
and we're going to ask him some questions today. I'm going to start. So what inspired the creation of the band, and what does the band name mean?
So at this point, the band is very much a torch that has been passed down through generations, because pretty much every member of the band at the moment wasn't in the band when it started. But, you know, every member that ever was in the band, you know, our old bassist or old guitarist or whatever, you know, we're very much a product of like the Cardiff music scene. And, you know, we're all still good friends even now. So I think it was always just very much a communal project of kind of just trying to come up with a band that was intense and atmospheric and emotional. And, you know, as certain members came or as certain members went, certain members came. And I feel very much like the message is still what it's always been, you know, which is really cool. As for the band name, the band is named after a Hammock song. There's a post-rock band called Hammock, and they've got a song called Holding Your Absence. So, yeah.
All right.
Solid.
I love it.
That's sick. So congratulations on your newest release, The Greatest Mistake of My Life. I love that name. How do you feel the response to the album so far?
Yeah, the response has actually been very overwhelming. You know, when you do something, anything in life, you hope people enjoy it, or you hope people like it or think it's good. And like, we're kind of at the point now where like, when somebody disses us on Twitter, it's like, yeah, that's awesome. It's nice to see a bit of variety, you know, because like at the moment, the response has just been overwhelming, you know. And it's lovely as well because, you know, like I said, our band is a very emotional, very intense one. So I feel like when people dig our music, they really feel it and get into it, you know. So a compliment feels 10 times more than if it was any old band, I'd say, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, as I was telling you before we started, I really enjoyed this album, and typically I don't get goosebumps on a second listen through the record, but both times I heard Celebration Song and that first goosebumps, both times. I'm floored. Crazy.
Yeah.
So what made you guys choose Beyond Belief as the lead single?
Yeah, so I'd say, you know, I don't know how long you guys have kind of known about Holding Absence, but for a long time at the beginning of our career, all of our aesthetic was like black and white, you know, so all the photos were in very like a monochromatic tone, and same with video and stuff. And it was a very like fixed image, you know, like, and basically we decided for this record, we wanted to leave that behind. And we kind of didn't know how to do it without putting out a song that felt kind of different in its own right as well, you know. So rather than putting out a typical Holding Absence song and changing the color, we thought, let's make an extreme change. Let's put out kind of the odd one out on the record in a way. And Beyond Belief is probably that, even though it's not like a weird, you know, it's not at all a weird song or whatever, but, you know, it does just feel a little bit different to the rest. It's got a bit more of an upbeat, lively tempo as well. And we thought that was quite a nice way to start this rollout, because like you said, with Celebration Song, the album is a very hopeful and sometimes positive album compared to some of our other stuff. So
solid. All right. So you guys actually put a documentary based around the album. What was the inspiration behind that?
Like I said, back to the black and white thing, you know, for a long time our band was very po-faced, you know, and very stoic. And I think then we'd play shows and we'd meet people after shows, and, you know, we'd hug people and we'd have chats for hours. And then we kind of realized that we're not actually this cool, deep band. We're quite like a wholesome people band, you know. And I think the documentary was our way of kind of opening the door to everyone, saying, you know, this is the band that, you know, you've been listening to all this time. And also this is how we, you know, what better time to open the door than during the process of something as big as an album recording process, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So it's just like you guys just showing like, this is us actually.
Yeah, in every way, you know, good or bad, you know, like stupid. And, you know, because that's the thing, when you write serious music, you know, I grew up listening to like A Day to Remember and stuff. And like, I remember they'd always put out videos of them like, you know, like pissing around, and I'd always be like, whoa, they're funny and cool, you know. And not that I think we're trying to be a funny band, but I don't want anyone to think that we're always serious, you know.
That makes sense.
So is there any meaning behind the album name or the cover art for it?
Yeah, so the album title specifically has quite a poignant story behind it, because I don't know if you know this, but The Greatest Mistake of My Life was actually a song that was released in the 1930s. So it's totally worth checking out. You should definitely check it out. It was released in 1937 by an artist called Gracie Fields. And basically the story goes that my great uncle actually recorded a cover of it in the 50s, which is super cool. Yeah. And my nan, who's, you know, like an old lady now, you know, and she remembered my great uncle when he did that, and said, you know, basically that I wasn't the first musician to make music in the family, if that makes sense, or whatever. And then I checked the song out and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. You know, this is a really cool, classic, timeless kind of song. And one thing we tried to achieve with this album was this cinematic, timeless, like kind of grand kind of feeling and vibe, you know. And I just remember thinking, like, nothing is more grand and timeless and cinematic than this 90-year-old song that I've somehow just discovered. And obviously, you know, if you listen to the record, we do end with a piano version of that song as well. So yeah, so kind of a cool story.
That is amazing.
Completely full circle.
Oh my God.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because, like, you know, it's I think a lot of the time with music, it's only as deep as you make it, you know. And in all honesty, you know, this just felt like instantly it meant something before any songs were even written, you know, like the title itself had a real story with me. So yeah.
Okay, I was just about to ask, did you like go into the album saying, I want it to be this name and I want to end it this way?
Yeah, so we definitely named it The Greatest Mistake of My Life pretty much first. So we actually worked backwards. And that's something that you rarely ever do, you know. A lot of the time you'll write an album and then go, oh, what do we call it? Maybe this lyric from this song, or, you know, whatever. But whereas with this album, it was like, this is the title, let's work backwards, which was a really cool and unique kind of thing. As for the cover at the end, though, I actually wasn't sure how to pay homage to the song. I knew I wanted to do that somehow, and I was trying really hard throughout to maybe put the lyric, the greatest mistake of my life was saying goodbye to you, into a song. But I just couldn't make it work. And then we thought, you know, the Black Parade by Mike Kemp?
Of course.
Obviously. Well, obviously one of my favorite albums of all time, and obviously Blood at the end, you know, it kind of comes off as like this final song after, you know, once all the dust is settled and stuff. And back to the cinematic vibe, you know, we kind of like the idea of it feeling like an end credits moment, you know, like like an after album song in a weird way. So yeah, so it all worked out.
That is so sick.
So much thought into this entire thing. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So can you tell me a little bit about your writing process for this album?
Yeah, so, you know, we always try, I guess, when you write music, you know, if you keep going through the same kind of entrance, you'll always come out looking the same in the exit. You know, it's very much like, I think the flavor of music comes through experimentation and just trying new things in different orders, you know. So we started the album, we wrote Afterlife and Drugs and Love with a guy called Dan Weller, who went on to actually produce the album. So we kind of had this like connection with him quite early. And then, certain songs, you know, we played it by year, you know, and the whole thing was written over the space of about 6 or 7 months. So it was like a long period of time. And we have like a little office in Cardiff. So myself and Scott, we would go there every day, or at least like 3 days a week, you know, and slowly chip away at different songs and stuff. And yeah, you know, it's so funny because of the pandemic, you know, we recorded this album last February. So now I'm talking about these songs, you know, we were writing these songs, like Afterlife was written in the summer of 2019, you know, so I can't even remember writing some of these songs now. It's been so long ago, you know?
Yeah. Wait, so is there a reason why you didn't drop it in 2020? Is it because like the pandemic and you were kind of waiting it out?
Basically, yeah, you know, we kind of wanted to find the sweet spot between knowing that shows would eventually come back and also not holding it off for too long, you know. We were originally going to drop it in October last year, And then we were like, maybe if we start rolling it out October and then drop it in April, and then hopefully play shows in November and October time, that's like 6 months at a time, rather than like, I look at some bands like Enter Shikari are a good example, or a lot of British ones. I don't know why British ones keep on the mind, but like Boston Manor, I don't know if you're a fan of those guys. They released albums at the beginning of the pandemic, and it kind of just breaks my heart a bit to think that those songs have been out there for a whole year plus and never got played,
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So where's your headspace at while you're writing this album? I know you said it's like a couple of years, for some of them, but what do you can remember?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an old man now. I'm 26 years of age, and I've been making music.
You're not old, so you can't say that.
I feel old, so that's the main thing. But I feel like I've been making music for a decade now, and like, and basically, I think you go through different motions with music, and passion and creativity, regardless of whether that's art or poetry or music. No matter what, I think creativity sits in this weird pocket of life where it's not a job. It's kind of a bit more than a hobby. You know what I mean? And you kind of don't know what to do with it. And I think basically when I started hitting my 20s, and I'd been a musician for a long time, but I realized then I had to kind of start paying rent. I had to start working and trying to make music. I think it was very much a learning curve for me. I think I realized that I needed to, I needed to be an adult, and I needed to work as hard as everyone else. I wasn't the youngest guy in the room anymore. And I know that sounds really dumb, but for a long time, like I said, I've been making music since I was 16. For a long time, I was playing shows with people twice my age. And, I'm like 23 years of age, and I realize, I've got a degree, and I've been, and all this kind of stuff, and there's no excuses anymore. And I think that kind of kicked me up the arse a little bit, in the sense that like excuses are the worst things to have in life, because they are you kind of contextualizing failure. But you shouldn't allow failure when it comes to something like music. You should never give yourself an excuse. You should always just keep pushing. And I think that was kind of it really for me.
Really? Oh, all right. So it was just kind of like pushing yourself, basically.
Yeah, and coming to grips with the fact that if it didn't work with the band, it was my fault, if that makes sense. Kind of.
That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
It is a lot of pressure. I know.
Yeah.
But I've always put pressure on myself, because I think as people, I think, you can put too little pressure on yourself. Like I said, I know a lot of people who just don't make music anymore because they just felt like they just failed at it, and just, and I think it's this weird mixture of like, you need to be liberated in order to make art, but at the same time you need to be serious about it in order to make it as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. All right. So while going through the album, what band or artist influences pop out the most to you, if any?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because we always go into every record with about 10 different bands that we really love and look up to. A band that we really took inspiration from for this record was a band called Copeland. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I don't think so.
Wicked band. You should really check them out. But yeah, they're like kind of like beautiful, dreamy, post-hardcore, but without the heavy stuff, if that makes sense.
That's an interesting combination.
Yeah. It's very much like, I don't know, if Seosin and the 1975 had a baby kind of thing,
Ooh,
it's good. It's very good. Yeah, their last two records specifically are my favorites. But yeah, they really inspired this album. But I think like I've been trying to embrace, like we said about My Chemical Romance, like they're a band that I grew up with, but as I'm growing older now, I'm like realizing that they aren't just nostalgia bands. Like, so My Chem and Paramore were two really, really big inspirations for this record, because like I grew up with them, and then one day I realized that they were more than just my kind of growing up band. Like I actually love the way they write music, and tried to take inspiration from them, from an objective point of view rather than an already diehard fan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense.
So this question should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to say an emotional experience.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah, that's good.
Definitely.
That's good. So while going through the album, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want it to invoke in your listeners?
I feel like I'm actually learning more about the album as time's going on. I'm kind of, like when we first started working on this record, I think I was aiming for something. And now after all these months of listening to it, and even the last couple of weeks of, doing interviews and stuff and talking about it, I'm kind of coming to grips with the fact that it's basically an album that finds hope in sadness, I think, for me. It's an album that embraces things going wrong and tells you to learn from those lessons, so whether it's celebration song and mourning song and looking at the duality of life and trying to learn from, I guess the fact that death exists and we should embrace life because of that. And then kind of looking at that in the context that sadness exists and we should embrace happiness because of that, and I think the more I listen to it, the more I realize how subtly hopeful I am underneath the whole record, despite being quite obnoxiously sad.
Yeah, it's a silver lining.
Yeah.
Best way of putting it is, it's very much about it's very much about the silver lining amongst all the dark clouds, but acknowledging all the dark clouds at the same time.
Yeah.
So before the world set on fire, you were supposed to go on tour with Creeper. How did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, we've been good friends with them for quite a while. We played a festival in the UK called 2000 Trees Festival back in 2018, I think it was. And it was a whole minute ago. But
a while back,
and we were playing, and I think one of the weirder things with being in a band is, like, obviously you want public perception, you want people to enjoy your music on a large scale, but like you can't help but also value certain people's opinions a bit more, so for example, like there's a band that we're friends with called Loathe. I'm sure you've heard of them, and like Hayley Williams put up a post about them on Instagram, or like Chino from Deftones put up a tweet about them, and like to me, I'm like, yo, like that is so cool, because those are like specifically incredible artists, and I remember when we were playing 2000 Trees, we were playing, and I like turned around and Will from Creeper was like watching, and we'd never had any contact with them, so, and you could tell he was like vibing it. I was like, yeah, let's go, we got like a new cool guy on board, and since then we've been talking a lot about doing a tour with them, and basically, man, it's gonna happen in November, December this year.
Hopefully. I was gonna say December,
but I think that's the fourth time it's been rescheduled.
God damn.
So we're really trying to make that one work.
Definitely. I appreciate you guys just kind of rescheduling, because then it's like it still gives the ticket holders like an opportunity to still make sure if they can go or not, instead of just canceling and being like, okay, guess we're not doing this.
Maybe
try
someday,
again later.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, good point. And it's hard because you do have this weird situation where, like, say you bought a ticket and then it keeps getting pushed back. Like, for example, a good example is me, and I bring them up again, but with My Chemical Romance, I've got a ticket to see My Chem.
Yeah.
Spent like 60 quid on it. And I'm still, obviously, I haven't seen them. But I'm a bit like, could I do with 60 quid right now? I probably could, really, So as a musician, you kind of at the same time don't want to keep their money held up for this show that might never happen either, So it is a tough one. But yeah, fair play to Creeper. They've been pushing that tour back every time there's a small chance, they've been rescheduling it. So.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that it's going to be able to happen, considering most people are getting vaccinated now, and I'm just fingers crossed, honestly. I really hope you guys get to play. That'd be really
Thank
sick.
you. And to be honest, like America and UK specifically, I feel like we're vaccinating as quick as possible, which is really good, because like I know in Europe, for example, obviously, because there's so many different countries with so many different laws and blah blah blah, like I know that they're a lot slower on the uptake, So fingers crossed for me and you guys, by the end of the year, we'll be back sweating in a venue somewhere and enjoying live music again.
That'd be really good.
I could cry at the thought of it.
Oh God. So you guys actually don't have any features on this album. Is there anybody you have your eyes on for the next release? Anything you want to kind of like speak into existence?
So first off, we do have like a mini feature, but it's not acknowledged on the track listing or anything. So proper low key. But my sister actually sings on one of the songs. So there's a song called "Die Alone in Your Lover's Arms," and I wrote it as a duet. And then we basically realized that we didn't want to do any, like, you know, featuring blah blah blah. You know, it might have looked a bit cheap, especially because the song is called "Die Alone" in brackets in your lover's arms. And if it said and then more brackets, it would have just like, stupid, you know.
Too much.
So so my sister sang on that song. So, you know, to anybody listening, you know, I'd really urge you to check it out because she did a brilliant job. She's not a musician herself. She's just got a wonderful voice. And I think it's a really magical song. I'm really proud of it. Then as for like future slots and speaking stuff into existence, like you said, there's so many brilliant bands that I love. The three bands that I always say are going to be the future of music. So I feel like these three will always have a space on a Holden Absence song. Stand Atlantic. So Bonnie is a brilliant vocalist. I'd love to have her someday. Dayseeker, unbelievable band. So Rory, I'd love to have on a song. And Loathe as well. Back to what I was saying earlier, you know, maybe having Kadeem on a track someday would be really cool as well. Yeah,
that would be very sick. Yeah,
all picks.
Wait, so how did that happen? Did you just kind of like ask your sister, like, hey, you want to sing on this song, or did she volunteer? What?
Kinda, yeah. I kind of hit her up because, like, we were kind of like coming up to the recording date, and I realized that, you know, it wasn't sorted out, you know. So I was kind of like, I mentioned it to her more as like a maybe at first as well. But yeah, and she, you know, to be fair to her, she took it in her stride because, you know, it's quite a big thing, you know, having never recorded vocals before. And then next thing you know, she's on like an album and like everybody's talking about her voice. And, you know, like I kind of wish I'd like thought a bit more about that, you know, because like if it had gone wrong, that I feel like that would have been really like sad, you know what I mean? So luckily everybody's really enjoyed it, you know, but yeah.
Okay, that's sick. That's really
I'm
sick.
glad it went over well because the internet's mean.
Yeah, the internet's horrifying. Yeah.
So where do you see the band in the next 5 years?
Honestly, as long as we're just doing what we're doing now, I'll be happy. You know, I always say this, like, success isn't the goal, you know, at all. I really don't care how big we get, you know, but for me, like, you know, speaking to people like yourselves who like people who live very different lives to myself, you know, and have experienced many different things. And then also on just a more grandiose scale, just anybody at shows, you know, like for me, it's like, I love this band. I'm proud of this band. And I want the message to reach as many people as possible. So in 5 years' time, as long as we're just doing this to more people, you know, I think that's the goal, really. I do want to explore the world, though, you know, like I do want to come to America. I want to see the difference in every state on America, and I want to go to Japan. I want to go to Australia, you know, so there's a lot left to do. So hopefully in the next 5 years, I'll do it all.
Hell yeah.
That was so wholesome. Just, I want to see the difference in every state.
Dude, honestly, America blows my mind. Like the fact that it's crazy. Like, for example, Europe is like huge, of course, but like the cultural, like think about the cultural difference in Europe. You know, you've got like, when I say France, you think mustaches and baguettes, and then when I say Spain, you think about like, you know, matadors and like football or whatever, you know. But then with America, it's like it's one country. You know, but every state is kind of different, but not so blatantly different, if that makes sense. So I'd love to just see, you know, what the difference is between, you know, like Washington and New York. They're the same place in my head, you know? So I'd love to, even though they're millions of miles or thousands of miles apart. So like, you know, I'd love to, you know, just be able to really be a part of that, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense. I hope you get to explore America. That'd be sick.
Thank you.
So for the last couple of questions, we're actually going to shift away from music, if that's okay with you.
Cool, that's perfect, yeah.
Cool. So we're going to go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Ooh. I would say, it's really tough because it's like death row. We're not messing around. Like that's a big, that's the last meal, you know?
Yeah.
So I would say, I always have, whenever I'm like depressed or hungover, me and my girlfriend always have vegan sausage rolls and baked beans. So trust me, man, it's good. It's sloppy, but it's tasty. Mm-hmm. So I don't know though. That can't be my last meal, can it? That's a bad last meal.
No, if you like it, then
I'll go with that. Yeah. And then with a drink, I'd say a good old fashioned, cup of tea. Nice little English breakfast cup of tea. Yeah, a bit of oat milk. Maybe would I be allowed a biscuit with my tea?
Yes.
We'll allow it.
I'll have an Oreo.
So if you could live in one fiction world for a week, where would you live?
Oh, dude, that's a big one because I'm like a real like fantasy nerd. Like in general, like I watch loads of fiction things. So I think I'd probably go with the Avatar world, like with the water bending and the air bending and earth bending. I think that'd be really cool. Or maybe, I'd go with that one. I think that's really cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw your picture when you joined. It was I can't remember the main character. I can't remember. Aang. Yeah, I saw it. I was like, oh, he's an Avatar fan. That's fair. That's fair. My brother loves the show, so I completely understand.
I urge anyone to watch it. It was such a good show. Yeah.
Definitely, I agree. So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said it is the most important question.
Ooh.
What is your favorite color?
Oh, what a lovely question. My favorite color is yellow.
Mine too. So true.
Yellow.
Best color.
Let's go.
Best color.
Yeah, I've got a real connection with the color yellow because I feel like even though this isn't true, I feel like yellow is the happiest color. Mm-hmm. I don't see a sad shade of yellow, really. Does that make sense? So like, for example, with blue, it's like, you think of like blue, it's like I'm blue and I'm sad, or with red, you think of like blood or death or whatever, and like, I don't know, I just feel like with yellow, it's just a bright, happy color. My name means light, so I feel like I've got a bit of a connection with that. And like, I got a really funny story as well. When I was in school, I don't know if you guys would have this actually, but do you have like houses? Like a house? That's so, because we do. It's stupid, but have you ever seen like Harry Potter?
Of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you've got like Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, blah blah blah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Most schools will do red house, green house, blue house, yellow house. Mm-hmm. And when I was 4, I was asked what house I wanted to be in, and I picked yellow house. And I was the only boy who picked yellow house. And it sounds really stupid, but I feel like it's just connected to me now as a color because apparently a 4-year-old version of me picked it once upon a time, and I still like it now. So yeah.
You brought up Harry Potter. Do you know what house you are?
Honestly, no. I'm probably just a Gryffindor, though. I imagine.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Kind of a boring good guy. So yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
So as Gloria said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Our new album, The Greatest Mistake of My Life, is out now. So, if you've got time, check it out. And hopefully we'll come to America someday. But I just wanted to thank you guys so much for a lovely interview. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sitting down with us. It's been Lucas from Holding Absence and We're the Good Noise podcast.